I used to think trading was about action, the flashing charts, the constant tick by tick movement, the feeling that if I wasn't in a trade, I was falling behind. I thought the more I did, the more money I'd make. But here's the truth, I wish someone had drilled into me earlier. The most profitable decision I ever made in trading was learning to be bored. That might sound crazy. How could boredom, the thing we spend our entire lives trying to avoid, actually be the edge that separates a gambler from a trader? But it's true. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why boredom might be the single greatest weapon you have. This is the Sci-Fi Trading Channel, where we dig into the hidden side of markets and the mind. If you've ever felt stuck in the cycle of forcing trades just to feel alive, this one's for you. Sit back, relax, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and let's dive in. The first thing you need to understand is this: boredom isn't neutral. Boredom isn't just silence, it's a force. And if you don't recognize it, it will push you into decisions you'll regret. I remember staring at charts on quiet mornings, desperate for something to happen. No news, no setups, nothing worth touching. And still, I'd feel it, that itch, that whisper in the back of my head. Come on, put something on. Just a quick scalp. Don't waste the day. So I'd click buy or sell, and 9 times out of 10, I'd end up paying the market tuition for no reason. And here's the part nobody tells you. Boredom is one of the fastest ways to drain your account. Not because of one big trade, but because of dozens of meaningless ones. The death by 1,000 cuts kind of trading. It's sneaky. It doesn't feel reckless in the moment. It feels like you're doing your job. It feels like you're being productive. But in reality, you're just feeding an addiction. The addiction to action. And that's where boredom destroys traders. Because we live in a world built on stimulation. Scroll your phone, refresh your feed, chase the next dopamine hit. So when you sit in front of a chart and nothing's happening, your brain starts to panic. It says, do something, anything. But here's the market's trick. Most of the time, the best trade is no trade. Most of the time, waiting is the edge. And that waiting feels exactly like boredom. It took me a long time to see it that way. At first, I hated it. The silence, the stillness, the hours where nothing set up. But over time, I realized something. Boredom is the filter. It's the test the market gives every single trader. Because if you can't sit through it, you'll never survive long enough to see the real opportunities. Think about it this way. 2 traders walk into the same month. Trader A takes 100 trades. Trader B takes 10. Same strategy, same charts, same market conditions. The difference? Trader A couldn't sit still. Trader B could. Who do you think has the edge? It's not even close. The trader who embraced boredom ends up with focus, clarity, and capital left over to strike when it matters. The trader who fought boredom bleeds out slowly, nickel and dimed by spreads, commissions, and stress. That's the paradox I wish I'd understood from day one. In trading, boredom isn't your enemy. It's your edge. And once you flip that mindset, once you stop seeing boredom as wasted time and start seeing it as proof you're in control, everything changes. Overtrading is the slowest, quietest way to blow up an account. It doesn't look dangerous at first. It doesn't feel reckless, but it's the silent killer that eats away at traders day after day until there's nothing left. The reason overtrading is so deadly is simple. It doesn't start with greed. It starts with boredom. One extra trade here, one small scalp there. You convince yourself you're just staying active. You tell yourself you're being productive. But in reality, you're bleeding out one small cut at a time. I used to believe that the best traders were the ones always in the game, always clicking, always hunting. But here's the truth. The market doesn't reward activity. It rewards selectivity. Let me give you a picture. Imagine 2 traders again. Trader A takes 120 trades in a month. Trader B takes 12. On the surface, Trader A looks committed, hardworking, locked in. Trader B looks lazy, unmotivated. But when the results come in, it's the opposite. Trader A is exhausted, stressed, and usually negative on the month. Trader B is calm, collected, and consistent. Why? Because Trader A turned the market into a casino, pulling the lever on every setup that looked halfway decent. And just like the casino, the house, the spreads, the commissions, the slippage eventually ground him down. Trader B, on the other hand, waited. She let boredom pass through her without reacting. And when the real opportunities showed up, she was ready. That's the difference between being addicted to action and being addicted to results. Here's the tricky part. overtrading disguises itself as progress. It feels like you're practicing, like you're building skill through repetition. And there's some truth to that in the very beginning. When you're brand new, putting on trades teaches you how your platform works, how orders fill, how emotions rise and fall. But there comes a point where overtrading stops being practice and starts being poison. You're not learning anymore. You're reinforcing bad habits. Think about it like working out. If you've never lifted a weight, sure, doing a ton of reps with bad form might still get your muscles sore. But if you keep lifting wrong, you're not building strength, you're building injuries. Trading works the same way. Overtrading trains you to act on impulse, to confuse motion with progress. And the longer you do it, the deeper those habits dig in. I'll never forget this one trader I met early on. He'd been in the markets for almost 5 years. When he showed me his account, it was shocking. He wasn't broke, but he wasn't growing either. Year after year, he'd end up in the same spot. Slightly red, slightly green, back to flat. 5 years of effort with nothing to show for it. And when I asked him why, his answer was simple. I can't stop clicking the button. I get bored if I don't. That's overtrading in a nutshell. Not blowing up in one big mistake, but slowly wearing yourself down until you burn out completely. And it's not just about the money. Overtrading drains your mental capital. Every extra trade uses up a little more of your willpower, your patience, your focus. So when the real setup finally arrives, you're too drained to execute it properly. You're either too scared from earlier losses, or you jump in sloppy and miss the edge you had. This is why so many traders feel like they're always almost there. They know the setup, they know the pattern, but when it finally comes, they're either too tired, too distracted, or too frustrated from overtrading to hit it right. And here's the brutal irony. The very thing they thought was keeping them sharp, trading more, staying active, was the thing that dulled their edge. That's why I call overtrading the silent killer, because it doesn't just kill your account. It kills your focus. It kills your discipline. It kills the part of you that could have been a real trader. The question is, how do you stop it? How do you learn to sit still when everything inside you is screaming to act? That's the challenge. And it's where boredom comes back in, because the only way to kill overtrading is to make peace with boredom. Here's something I had to learn the hard way. Boredom isn't harmless. It's not just sitting there, staring at the screen, waiting for something to happen. Boredom is pressure. It's psychological discomfort. And when you're trading, that discomfort can push you into your worst decisions. See, our brains are not built for boredom. For most of human history, boredom didn't even exist. If you were bored 1,000 years ago, that probably meant you weren't hunting or farming or protecting yourself. Boredom could get you killed, so we evolved to crave stimulation, to stay active, to seek out novelty. Now, fast forward to today, our lives are flooded with stimulation, endless feeds, constant notifications, a new dopamine hit every few seconds. We don't just dislike boredom, we're terrified of it. Because silence feels unnatural, doing nothing feels wrong. And then you sit down to trade. The market doesn't care that your brain wants action. The market moves on its own schedule. Hours can pass with nothing worth touching. But your brain doesn't know how to handle that. It panics. It whispers, "You're missing out. Everyone else is making money right now. Get in before it's too late." That whisper has a name. FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's boredom's sharpest weapon. I remember a stretch early in my career where I couldn't stand letting a single move pass me by. I'd watch a stock make a small push, and even if my setup wasn't there, I'd jump in. Not because the odds were in my favor, but because the thought of being left out was unbearable. I wasn't trading a strategy. I was trading my boredom. And my boredom was expensive. The truth is, boredom hurts because it feels like wasted time. Your brain tells you, if I'm not in a trade, I'm not progressing, I'm not working, I'm not doing my job. But that's a lie. Trading isn't about constant motion, it's about positioning, it's about patience, it's about waiting for the rare moment when the odds line up. Here's an analogy that helped me. Think of a professional sniper. 95% of his job is waiting. Still, silent, hidden. The shot, the one moment of action, might take seconds. But if he can't handle the boredom of waiting, if he twitches, if he forces it, he misses. And the consequences are fatal. Trading is the same. The waiting feels unbearable. The silence feels heavy. But that's the job. That's what separates a disciplined trader from an impulsive gambler. Another analogy, fishing. You cast your line and then you wait. You don't splash around in the water. You don't yank the line every 30 seconds just to feel like you're doing something. You sit, you wait, you let the opportunity come to you. If you can't handle that silence, you'll never catch anything worth keeping. And yet, traders keep splashing, they keep twitching, because boredom feels wrong. I think about Mark Douglas, one of the most famous trading psychology teachers. He said the real breakthrough in trading comes when you fully accept uncertainty, when you stop demanding certainty from the market and instead focus on what you can control, your process, your risk, your discipline. That mindset shift requires comfort with boredom, because boredom is just uncertainty in disguise. It's the market saying, not yet, be patient. But here's where it gets tricky. Even when you understand this on paper, your emotions don't just switch off. You'll still feel the itch. You'll still feel your leg bouncing under the desk, your hand hovering over the mouse. And in those moments, it feels like boredom is pulling you apart. That's when most traders break. They give in, they click, they turn a flat, quiet day into a red one just because they couldn't stand doing nothing. And that's why boredom feels so wrong, because it forces you to confront yourself. It shows you how impatient you really are. It exposes your craving for dopamine, for control, for certainty. And if you don't recognize it, boredom will use all of those against you. So the real question isn't whether you'll feel boredom, you will. The question is, how do you respond? Do you let boredom run the show, or do you let boredom become the filter, the test you have to pass before the market gives you a real opportunity? That's the shift that changes everything. There comes a point in every trader's journey where the market forces you to face yourself. For me, that moment was brutal. I'd had a string of bad days, the kind of days where every decision feels wrong. Every chart I looked at felt like it was moving without me. I couldn't stand sitting on the sidelines, so I did what I always did back then. I forced trades. Little ones, big ones, it didn't matter. I just wanted to feel in the game. By the end of that week, my account was wrecked. Not blown up completely, but close enough to sting in a way I'll never forget. And the worst part wasn't the money. The worst part was looking back and realizing that not one of those trades had to be taken. Not one. They weren't part of my plan. They weren't my setups. They were just boredom, dressed up as urgency. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the trades in my head, asking myself why. Why did I click the button? Why did I put myself through that spiral? And the answer was uncomfortable. I didn't lose to the market. I lost to my own boredom. That realization cut deep, because it meant I wasn't just fighting price action or volatility. I was fighting my own brain. And until I solved that, no strategy in the world was going to save me. The next morning, I made a decision. I wrote one sentence on a sticky note and slapped it on my monitor. It said, "If you're bored, you're doing it right." That became my mantra. Every time I felt the itch to click just to feel alive, I'd look at that note, and slowly, the meaning started to sink in. At first, it felt like torture. I'd sit there, staring at charts, resisting the urge to do something, but after a while, something shifted. The boredom didn't feel like failure anymore. It felt like discipline. It felt like proof that I was finally in control. And then the magic happened, because once I stopped wasting energy on garbage trades, I suddenly had clarity. I started to see patterns I used to miss. I started to recognize the difference between noise and signal. And when the right setups finally came, I wasn't tired, frustrated, or tilted. I was calm, focused, ready. The first time I truly waited for my setup, really waited, the trade played out almost perfectly. Not because it was guaranteed, but because my mind was sharp enough to execute it exactly as planned. That trade wasn't just profitable. It was a turning point. It proved that boredom wasn't my enemy. It was my filter. It was the market's way of asking me, do you have the patience to deserve this trade? And once I answered yes, everything changed. I started cutting my trades in half, then half again. What used to be 100 trades a month turned into 20, then 10. And here's the irony. As my trade count went down, my profits went up. Not because I was smarter, not because the market changed, but because I finally learned how to wait. That was the turning point. The day boredom stopped being the thing that killed me and became the thing that saved me. And if you've been stuck in that same cycle, forcing trades, chasing action, bleeding slowly from overtrading, I'll tell you the truth right now. Your turning point is coming. The question is, will you see boredom for what it is? Will you let it be the test that shapes you into a real trader? Or will you keep letting it push you into the same mistakes? Because the moment you flip that script, the moment boredom becomes proof of discipline instead of proof of weakness, is the moment everything shifts. Here's the part that took me the longest to really believe. Boredom isn't just self-control. It's not just a mental trick to keep you from overtrading. Boredom is the edge. Think about what an edge really is in trading. It's not a magic indicator. It's not a secret pattern. It's not something you buy in a course. An edge is simply a repeatable advantage, a way of putting probability on your side over and over across time. And the truth is, most traders already have strategies that could work. They know what a high quality setup looks like, they know how to manage risk, but they sabotage themselves because they can't sit still long enough to wait for that setup to come. Their edge is right in front of them, but they trade it to death before it can play out. That's why boredom is so powerful, because boredom is the filter that forces you to only take the trades that truly matter. Here's how it works. Every time you trade, you spend two kinds of capital: financial capital, the money in your account, and emotional capital, the mental energy it takes to make good decisions. Both are limited. If you waste them on low-quality, boredom-driven trades, you won't have enough left when the real opportunity shows up. That's why professional traders are boring. Ask any hedge fund manager or prop trader who's been in the game for decades. They'll tell you most of their job is doing nothing, watching, waiting, because they know the real money isn't made in constant action. It's made in rare, high-probability moments. And if you're not rested, disciplined, and patient enough to strike in those moments, you miss the entire point. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine two hunters in the wild. The first one runs through the forest, firing arrows at everything that moves. Birds, squirrels, shadows in the trees, it doesn't matter. He burns through all his arrows before the real target ever arrives. The second hunter waits, silent, still. When the deer finally steps into range, he has all his arrows left, all his focus intact, and one clean shot that matters. Who has the edge? Not the one who was busy, the one who was bored. Trading works the same way. The market is full of noise, random moves that look tempting but have no real edge. If you spend all your capital chasing the noise, you miss the signal when it finally comes. Boredom keeps you out of the noise so you can act when the signal appears. And here's the kicker. The fewer trades you take, the sharper your data becomes. If you take 100 trades a month, your results are scattered: wins, losses, noise. It's hard to see if your strategy even works. But if you take 10 high-quality trades a month, you can measure your edge clearly. You can see what's working, refine it, and build consistency. Boredom gives you that clarity. There's another layer too. Boredom preserves your emotional capital. Every time you jump into a trade out of restlessness, you spend energy. You get anxious, you get frustrated, and when the real trade shows up, you're tilted, not clear-headed. You either hesitate and miss it, or you force it and mismanage it. But if you've been patient, if you've embraced the boredom, you hit it clean. And those clean executions, stacked over months and years, are what build careers. The irony is, boredom doesn't feel like an edge in the moment. It feels like nothing. It feels like wasted time. But when you zoom out, you see that boredom is the shield that protects you from yourself. It's the reason your account survives long enough to actually grow. And here's the wild part. When you finally embrace boredom, the market slows down. You stop chasing every tick. You stop feeling like you're missing out. Instead, you see the rhythm, the flow, the bigger picture. It's almost like zooming out of the chaos to watch the patterns emerge. That perspective of that calm is what most traders never reach. So when I say boredom is my edge, I don't mean it's fun. I don't mean I enjoy sitting through hours of nothing. I mean boredom is the price of admission. It's the toll you pay to earn the right to be in the game. And if you can't pay it, you'll always be on the outside chasing scraps while the patient traders feast. The best traders in the world don't beat boredom. They master it. They turn it into a tool, a filter, an edge. And if you can do the same, you'll already be ahead of 90% of the people who ever try this game. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. You can't just decide to be patient and suddenly master boredom. It doesn't work like that. You need systems. You need structure. Because left to your own devices, your brain will find a way to sabotage you. The traders who survive boredom aren't superhuman. They're not monks who sit cross-legged in silence all day. They're regular people who build routines that make boredom bearable. And over time, those routines turn into discipline. So let's break down a few practical ways you can build boredom into your trading day. The first is time blocking. When I was newer, I'd stare at screens from open to close, thinking that was the grind. But all it really did was make me restless. I'd burn my focus on hours where nothing was happening. So when opportunity finally showed up, I was mentally fried. Now I trade in windows. I give myself specific times of day to watch the market, and outside those times, I step away. It sounds simple, but it changes everything. Instead of fighting boredom for 8 hours, I compress my focus into 2 or 3 blocks. I'm sharper, I'm calmer, and I make fewer mistakes. The second tool is alerts. You don't need to watch every tick. You don't need to babysit a chart for hours. Set alerts at the levels that matter to you. Let the market come to you instead of chasing it down. When an alert triggers, that's your signal to pay attention. Until then, you can do literally anything else. Go for a walk. Read, work out. Use boredom as your cue to live your life, not waste it staring at random candles. The third tool is a checklist. This one is big. When you feel the itch to trade, pull up your checklist and go through it step by step. Does this setup meet my criteria? Is my risk defined? Is my head clear? Or am I just bored? Half the time, the checklist itself will save you from a bad decision, because the moment you realize you're just forcing it, you'll stop yourself. The fourth is rituals. I know traders who literally get up from their desk and do 10 push-ups every time they feel the urge to take a boredom trade. Others keep a journal by their side and force themselves to write down, in full sentences, why they're taking the trade before they click. You'd be amazed how quickly that kills an impulse, because if you can't explain it, you probably shouldn't take it. Another powerful trick is scheduled boredom. Sounds funny, but it works. If you know the market is slow during certain hours, plan something for yourself. Step away intentionally. Cook lunch, stretch, even sit outside. When you come back, you'll feel reset instead of restless. One of the best examples I ever saw was a trader who built boredom breaks into his routine. He had a timer that went off every 90 minutes, no matter what. When it rang, he stepped away from the screen for 15 minutes. Didn't matter if the market was moving or dead. That reset kept him from overtrading, and over time, it saved his account. Because here's the truth, boredom doesn't go away. No matter how experienced you are, you'll still feel it. The difference is whether you have a plan for it. Without a plan, boredom owns you. With a plan, boredom becomes just another part of the job. Now, I know what some people are thinking. If I step away, won't I miss the move? And here's my answer. No. You'll miss random noise. You'll miss impulsive trades you didn't need. But the real setups, the high-quality ones, they'll still be there. And when they come, you'll be ready because you'll be focused, not drained from hours of staring at nothing. That's the key. You don't fight boredom head-on. You outsmart it. You build systems that keep you sane, keep you disciplined, and keep you in the game long enough for boredom to actually become your edge. Because at the end of the day, trading is less about outsmarting the market and more about outsmarting yourself. And the traders who master boredom, not just in theory, but in their daily routine, are the ones who last. If boredom is the silent killer of traders, then FOMO is the loud one. And the two go hand in hand, because the moment you get bored, your brain starts looking for an excuse to act. And the easiest excuse is, what if I'm missing something right now? That fear of missing out has ruined more traders than any bear market ever could. Here's how it usually plays out. You sit there through hours of silence, nothing's happening. You're restless, you're scrolling, you're refreshing your charts, and then suddenly, boom, a stock makes a sharp move without you. You weren't in, you missed it. That sting is unbearable for most traders. It feels like failure. It feels like proof that you're behind, that you're not good enough, that everyone else is making money while you're just sitting there. So what do? You chase the next one, you convince yourself you won't let it happen again. And in that emotional state, you end up forcing a bad trade. This is the cycle. Boredom, FOMO, overtrading, regret, over and over until your account bleeds out. I remember one day in particular where this trap nearly broke me. I had been watching a stock grind sideways all morning. Nothing special. I got bored, checked my phone, scrolled for a bit. When I looked back, the stock had ripped 5% in 10 minutes. I missed the whole thing. The frustration hit instantly. It didn't matter that I had no setup. It didn't matter that chasing after the move made 0 sense. All I could think was, I'm not missing this again. So the very next ticker that twitched, I jumped in. And of course, it reversed on me almost instantly. I turned a calm, flat morning into a red, stressful day. Not because of the market, but because I couldn't handle the feeling of missing out. That's FOMO. It doesn't just push you into trades you shouldn't take. It blinds you to the reality that opportunities never stop coming. Think about it this way. Missing one move doesn't matter. There will be another. There always is. But when you let boredom convince you that the move you missed was the only one, you end up sabotaging the next 10. It's like chasing buses. Miss one, sprint for the next, miss the timing again, and before you know it, you're exhausted, sweating, and still stranded on the side of the road. Meanwhile, the person who stayed calm just waited for the right one and got where they needed to go without breaking a sweat. The market is an endless stream of buses, but boredom tricks you into believing that the one you missed was your only shot, and that belief is deadly. Professional traders don't fall for it. They know missing trades is part of the game. They know they'll miss plenty, and they don't care because they understand something most new traders don't. It's not the one move you miss that matters. It's the discipline you build in the moments you choose not to chase. That discipline compounds. Every time you resist FOMO, you train your brain to detach from the illusion of urgency. You build the muscle of patience, and that muscle is what keeps you alive long enough to catch the moves that truly matter. Here's the truth. The market will always give you another opportunity. Always, but it won't always give you another account. So if you let boredom drag you into FOMO and FOMO drag you into bad trades, you'll burn through your account before the real setups even arrive. That's why mastering boredom isn't just about sitting still. It's about breaking the boredom, FOMO loop. It's about rewiring your brain to see missed moves not as losses, but as proof of discipline. Because the real win isn't catching every move. The real win is knowing you don't have to. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that boredom isn't the enemy. It's not a weakness, it's not wasted time, and it's not proof that you're failing as a trader. Boredom is the edge, because in trading, the hardest part isn't reading a chart, it's not finding setups, it's not even managing risk. The hardest part is sitting still long enough to let your edge play out. And that's why so few traders make it. They're not beaten by the market, they're beaten by their own impatience. They confuse constant motion with progress. They think trading means always being in the game, always clicking, always chasing. But the real traders, the ones who last, they know the truth. Most of this job is waiting. It's waiting through silence. It's waiting through boredom. It's waiting through the discomfort of missing moves and sitting out while the world seems to pass you by. And then, when the rare moment comes where the odds are in your favor, you act. Calm, clear, disciplined, that's the game. The sniper analogy says it best. 95% of the job is patience, stillness, silence, and then one shot that changes everything. If you can't handle the 95%, you'll never earn the right to take the shot. The same with fishing. You don't thrash the water trying to force the fish to bite. You cast your line, you sit, you wait, the bite comes when it comes. And if you're patient enough, you'll be ready when it does. That's what boredom really is in trading. It's the test. It's the market asking you, can you wait? Can you resist? Can you let the game come to you instead of forcing it? And the traders who can answer yes to that question are the ones who survive. They're the ones who stop overtrading, stop bleeding out slowly, stop chasing every move. They're the ones who preserve their capital, their energy, their clarity. They're the ones who actually grow. So the next time you feel that itch, that restless urge to click just to feel alive, remember this. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the edge. It's the filter that protects you from noise. It's the proof that you're in control. And it's the toll you pay to deserve the moments that really matter. I can tell you from experience, my trading didn't change when I found a new indicator, or a new strategy, or some secret pattern. It changed when I stopped fighting boredom, when I embraced it, when I let it become my greatest strength instead of my biggest weakness. That's when everything shifted. That's when I went from chasing the market to letting the market come to me. That's when I found consistency. So if you want to last in this game, if you want to survive the noise, the tilt, the endless traps, learn this one lesson. Learn to be bored. Because if you can learn to be bored, you can learn to win.